Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to District 3's statewide district meeting. My name is Sarah Whedon. I, along with Bob Levine, am your board representatives. And we also have Ricky Levine on the call, who is your District 3 president. So we're all super excited to have you here. Our statewide meetings have been getting larger by the month, probably because we've been doing this for 2+ years, but we're very actively working to get things back in person. I know that's been on a lot of your hearts to get back and be in fellowship with other chiropractors and keep the topics and good vibes going. So sometimes it's really hard to do on Zoom. So we really appreciate everybody continuing to show up with a great attitude and just helping us win at everything that we're doing. So we've got some updates that we want to do from the MAC. We have our sponsor that we want to go ahead and welcome. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it over to our feature speaker for tonight, Dr. Arkfeld. So some of you were at convention and you got some of these updates. Others of you were not. But I talked to Lisa Lovesmith, who helps manage all of our conventions yesterday, maybe Monday. And she reported the feedback was awesome. Everybody was super stoked. And a lot of it really just related back to that fellowship aspect of being, out and about and talking about all the things that we love in regards to chiropractic. So without further ado, here are the current Michigan updates. If you've got questions, I will give you Chris's email at the end of this. And we can obviously house any questions that we have at the end of the call after we hear Dr. Arkfeld speak. So first up, government relations, legal affairs. So there's 2 House bills that have been in the works. I'm going to butcher the numbers, so we're going to just speak in generalities. The first one was, can chiropractors co-own practices with MDs and DOs? And you will be happy to know that we have successfully crossed over to where we have passed legislation that you can now do that. The House bills number is 5295 and 5296. That passed in mid-March. Second is all about Medicare. So they continue to work, the executive committee and the board of directors continue to work on Medicare. And obviously between the Michigan U.S. senators and 14 members of the congressional delegation, they're working to sign as co-sponsors, and they're continuing to move the bus forward on that. It seems like every major committee nationwide and statewide is continuing to keep their pulse on Medicare. And please know that we are being very diligent with the same thing. Programs, conventions, and other things. So obviously we had our in-person meeting in Traverse City almost a month ago. All programs went back to normal scheduled in person as of this year. The plenary session this year this session actually focused on Dr. Mark Sana, Dr. Dan Spencer, and Christy Hudson on the future of the chiropractic strategic plan. Very encouraging, very motivational, and really nice to see that you don't have to be a chiropractor practicing to want to see the profession thrive and win. So if you didn't catch that, please know that there is actually a national strategic plan that people are being brought together from all over, from various municipalities, to help make sure that we move the profession forward in a really wonderful, useful way. Brainwave Symposium will be in Livonia, May 21st and 22nd, which happens to be this weekend. There's a UP convention that will be held in September. Fall convention obviously will be held in Detroit. For those of you that will be at Brainwave this weekend, I unfortunately have a wedding on Saturday, but I will be there on Sunday. So please come up and say hello. Again, the more of you that I get to know, the better I can help serve you in the profession as well as on the board. Implicit bias training. So on June 1st, they are actually putting into place a requirement where healthcare licensees in Michigan have to obtain training in implicit bias as a condition of license renewal. So for whether you're renewing this year or next year, it'll be something that you will have to do. The MAC is in the process of creating an implicit bias training program that meets the requirements. We're actually hoping to do we will hope to do the next statewide meeting on bias training. So we'll go through next meeting date at the end of the meeting, but please know that that's coming down the pipeline, and we'll make sure that you're more aware of that as it comes down and it's been finished, finalized. MAC exploring development of large group health plan. So the MAC continues to develop a large group health plan for our members and their families. Project is currently in application and benefit design process. So again, please stay tuned for that. sometimes we're working on things that haven't been quite finished. It helps to keep you involved with the process. That way, if you have questions, you stay in the know. But it also makes it even more exciting when it finally all comes to fruition. So there's a lot of fun things that are going on in the background that we just want to keep you posted on as we progress. The No Surprises Act. So the MAC has created a form that complies with both the state and federal law, sample patient notes, as well as infographic and numerous articles for MAC emails and other publications. They also hosted Dr. Scott Munsterman at the statewide district meeting on the topic. And they also prepared a document answering all the questions they didn't have time to answer during the presentation. So all of that has been posted to the website. If you are not familiar with what the No Surprises Act is, or you're still confused, you can find all that information on the website. As far as public relations go, I should be able to do this from memory because I feel like we're doing public relations weekly on my end, but we currently are invoking a new series called The Science of Health. So for those of you that are not familiar with public relations, it really is the way that the state of Michigan sees chiropractic, and how do we get more patients in the door so that we can continue to help people win and be awesome. So the first one we came up with was The Science of Health. So this is a science-based public education campaign, which will offer overviews on leading health science breakthroughs, focusing on study, research, and knowledge of health, as well as how to apply it. We're going to kick it off this weekend with Brainwave, as far as a mini docu-series, which will focus on topics such as chiropractic outcomes, mind-body connection, and healthcare technology. We also have been working with Youth Health Sports, helping to emphasize why it's important to play multiple sports, the danger with specialization, how chiropractic can help, as well as how you can help parent a healthy athlete. We have our Get Out, Get Healthy campaign, which is a website offering hundreds of free Michigan activities to individuals and families, which then help direct them to finding a chiropractic local to them. We're trying to help people focus on building their immune system without talking about all the things that break current statutes as far as COVID regulations. The 50+ health campaign is showing how important physical health and social activity is during your golden years, and how that helps improve your health. And then we've got the non-drug pain management campaign, focusing on how to treat pain without using opioids and the side effects that those create. So those are the updates for now. I will tell you that Chris, can someone drop Chris's email in the chat? For those of you that have questions, you obviously can always reach out to me. We have a Facebook page. If you're not part of it, ask to join and I will accept you. You can find me on Facebook as well if you have questions, but someone's going to put Chris's email in the chat. She will always be willing to answer questions for you if you can't find it on the website or you just don't know where to look. So those are the updates. That was as brief and concise as I could make them. And so without further ado, you guys can post some questions in the chat box if something glaring comes up, but we're going to just keep rolling in the essence of time and to respect everybody's time, including Dr. Arkfeld. So next, I wanted to introduce one of the sponsors who's always been really supportive of chiropractic. We wanted to have David Henson, who's an IT and installation specialist for Great Lakes Imaging, say a few words. So they're located in Madison Heights, and they offer sales, service, and repair for X-ray, digital imaging, and chiropractic tables. Dave, if you have a few things that you want to say, just welcome everybody, kind of give some updates on what you guys are working on. Now would be a great time to do that.
How's everybody doing? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, got it.
All right, perfect. So I wrote something. I'm not the best speaker and I'm kind of nervous, so I apologize. So first, I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing us to have the opportunity to introduce myself and Great Lakes Imaging. My name is David Henson. I'm an IT specialist. So if you had any issues with software or DR side of the X-ray portion, you would be dealing with me. Great Lakes Imaging has been a part of my family for a very long time. We jumped into the chiropractic market around '94. We do X-ray, digital X-ray chiropractic tables. We offer a full service table department with PM schedules for 6 to 12 months, keeping your tables maintenance, allowing you to concentrate on your patient care. If you're looking to purchase a new or pre-owned table, we have many to choose from. We have a great We have great options for new and used digital x-ray equipment. We're offering a $1,000 rebate for all the new 2020 imaging systems. We work closely with the Chiro Fed. So for about a new DR, you're looking at about $400 a month. And that's basically it. I really appreciate you guys' time, and I hope you guys have a good meeting.
Dave, you crushed it. Thank you so much for joining us and for always tirelessly supporting our profession.
Customer support is very big for us, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys, and I hope I didn't do too bad.
You did awesome. We'll have you back again so you can practice. You know, sometimes being a chiropractor really does feel like a never-ending uphill battle, and it's relationships like we have with you that makes it all the easier and makes it worthwhile. So thank you so much for that. All right, without further ado and without any glaring questions, we're going to move on to our featured speaker for tonight. So Dr. Ted Arkfeld graduated in 1988 from Northwestern College of Chiropractic. Always loving to learn, Dr. Arkfeld has returned to the classroom numerous times for advanced degrees and certifications in order to help him provide the most current research-based treatment protocols for patients. Tonight, he'll be speaking on documentation and coding. He's one of the leading authorities in documentation and coding and links the two through his clinical expertise. He is certified, he's an certified insurance biller expert, and he consults with several EHR companies. So without further ado, he's got his presentation ready to go. So we will not hold him off anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ted Arkfeld.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, guys. Hey, welcome everybody. I really appreciate the MAC for having me speak tonight, and a special shout out to Dr. Ricky Levine. This was really his brainchild to talk about coding and revenue loss. So thank you, Dr. Ricky Levine, for coming up with this wonderful idea. So common coding areas, you know, why am I here? Well, in 2007, I did become a certified professional coder. And I know that that is probably like the most boring thing that you could think anybody as a chiropractor would want to do. However, it's how we get paid. If we do anything with insurance, we have to do proper coding. And I was fortunate enough for about a 2-year period to visit hundreds of offices across the country. And I've reviewed thousands of files. And there was a disturbing trend that I kept seeing, and that was a loss of revenue because of incorrect coding. Even in my own office, once I really got a handle on the coding, I looked back throughout the years and I was like, man, I just lost so much revenue because I didn't know. It's not something that we're taught in school. It really is hand-me-down training. So if the original source of the training in your office is off by just a little bit, it could be costing you thousands of dollars. I saw about 25 to 30% loss of revenue on the average in offices. So that's why I'm here tonight. This is my contact information. I'll have this up again. Please send me, if you have any questions, send me an email, and then that's our office line there too. All right. Instead of just going in and talking about codes, and I like to equate to clinical aspects. That's what coding makes the fun part about coding for me. So let's put this in a real life situation. And so I'm going to go through a case study. And what I want you to be thinking about is, first of all, what E&M code would you have been used? What would you have used in this particular study? And then what manipulation code would you have used? So let's get going here. So I'm going to tell you about Melissa. And Melissa presented with the chief complaint of lower back pain radiating into the posterior thigh down to the dorsum of the foot. This started in January, unfortunately, after she had visited her chiropractor of 13 years. And without doing an exam or informed consent or anything, because this was a new condition for her, he immediately went in and did a side posture adjustment. Unfortunately, over the ensuing hours, she began to experience very sharp and stabbing pains in the lower back, to the point where she was losing strength in the right leg and foot and was having unbearable pain, as she described it. She was seen at our local emergency room and had an MRI done, and was immediately scheduled for lumbar spine surgery because there was a sequestered disc that had broken away and was just butting right up against the L5 nerve root. So she underwent an L5-S1 laminectomy, and for about 1 week, her symptoms eased up. She was feeling really good. About a week later, her incision became infected with Staphylococcus, and a second surgery was performed to clean out the infection. Ever since then, she had had moderate to severe pain in the lower back, even with 1 round of PT. So this happened in January of 2020, and she was in to see me last January. And so technically a chronic pain patient, and I'd actually gone over this case study in my session at the MAC a few weeks ago. Review of systems, everything was unremarkable. Second lumbar spine surgery a few weeks later. Past chiropractic care, well, she had seen the other chiropractor for 13 years, but she had never had low back condition. It was always for cervical and upper thoracic. She's single. She is a school teacher, a mother of 2. And when I saw her, she was just mad, would be the best way to describe it. And said she didn't really know what she was even doing at my office, that a chiropractor did this. And I said, well, you know, we take a different approach. So let's see what we can come up with. Her lumbar spine range of motion was visually assessed and revealed severe restrictions and pain on all planes of testing. Extension elicited pain in the L4-S1 midline with some radiation into the right posterior thigh down to the calf. All compression tests were positive. So straight leg raise on the right, Bechtereau's test on the right, everything was positive. Kemp's test, positive. All of it caused localized pain with radiating pain into the right lower extremity. Right dorsiflexion muscle testing. So now we're getting into the neurological aspect of it. Graded out as a 4 out of 5. Hamstring was 4 out of 5. So there was weakness in the right lower extremity. Everything on the left was 5 out of 5, was absolutely normal. Muscle stretch reflexes, patella was 2+ on the left, 1+ on the right. Achilles 2+ on the left, 1+ on the right. So we've got some neurological issues going on here. Dermatome exam, L5 evaluation revealed right hypoesthesia, and S1 was okay. So everything above and below was just fine on pinwheel testing. Vascular examination. Now, the dorsalis pedis already was abnormal. They were decreased, and so was the the posterior tibialis artery and dorsalis pedis. They were both decreased. Her feet, both of them were pretty cold. Spinal exam, severe pain and tenderness, severe hypertonicity, severe asymmetry, and misalignment at the L4, L5 bilaterally. Spinal fixations found at the right SI joint and in the sacrum. And obviously there was a midline scar from L3 to S1. Okay, test time. So what evaluation and management code would you probably have used? And I want you just to kind of think about this. The 3 that we can use in chiropractic, and there has been changes in the E&M codes that came about, probably about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. They did away with 99201. And so we're really left with 3 choices: 99202, 99203, and 99204. So I know that there's some very smart, intelligent doctors out there, and they're going, well, wait a minute, what about 99205? We can never use that in chiropractic. And the reason is the medical decision-making, we cannot meet that criteria. Those are people that are sick. If they don't get care, some serious things are going to happen. So this is the world that we're going to live in with our new patient exams. So the problem that I see is that a lot of doctors will just tend to migrate to one specific code. They'll do 99202 on everybody, or 99203 on everybody. And what you really should do is base this on the presenting complaint. The new rules state that it can be time-based. So There's certain time requirements for each one of these codes. I personally don't do that. I base everything on the presenting complaint of the patient. So for example, a 99202 would be a very straightforward complaint. One area, a complaint. And so you're going, well, what are the areas that we can count? We can count the head and neck as one, the thoracic and lumbar as two, and then each extremity. So we have 6 body areas that we're going to examine to fulfill the E&M code requirements. Now, that is different than our manipulation codes. We have 5 areas for manipulation. So a 99202 is going to be something real straightforward. Let's say somebody comes in with a rib subluxation, 99202. 99203 could be 2 or more body areas. So let's go through and I'll show you how it can really add up quickly, the loss of revenue. So this, I've just pulled this off in preparation earlier in the week of the fee schedule. So everything I'm really going to be talking about regarding fees is from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it's how we do it in our office. So I use our office really as like a working laboratory. And so we try to find out what works, what gets us paid. And then obviously at the center of everything is what's going to give us the best clinical outcome for the patient. So you'll see the prices right here. Okay, so a 99202 new patient exam is going to pay $81.66. A 99203 will pay $115.62. So I'll tell you that in this case, if you said, well, I would have used a 99202, that really wouldn't be correct. It's not a severe condition, a 99202. And the problem lies not so much in the down coding of it, I guess. The problem really lies in that if you're going to do the work and you do have to do more documentation and you have to spend more time with the patient for the higher levels, you should get paid for that. The other problem is that E&M codes begin the process of medical necessity. So if you did a 99202, and in Melissa's case, I think I treated her 24, maybe 28 times, that wouldn't correlate to a presenting complaint with the 99202. We needed more bulk in our E&M code. So what I've seen in looking at all these offices is that easily they could be doing 25 to 30,000 per year in lost revenue. And that's from E&M coding, that's from manipulation coding, and it's even more if you do not have active rehab in your office. Don't really worry about the post-payment audits. I haven't heard or seen anything like that's coming down the road again, because of COVID, but I'm sure in the years to come, that's probably going to be facing us again, but in the immediate future. So I don't want any scare tactics here. This isn't about audits. This is about revenue that could be right in your office right now. And I think we could all agree COVID did some numbers on offices, and you may be trying to rebuild and get back to that pre-COVID state. The best way to do it, honestly, is have a strong foundation in coding and documentation. It was really interesting because I had a young doctor come up to me after my session at the spring convention. And he said, Dr. Arkfeld, what is the #1 thing you would recommend to a new doctor starting out? And I said, you've got to have a solid foundation in coding. If you're going to do insurance at all, you really got to know what you're doing with that. You need to know about your documentation, because after all, that is how we're going to get paid. So this is money that can be recouped very easily in your office. So let's go through, and I had to give you an example, and this is going to probably be more or less depending on your office. But let's say you had 1 new Blue Cross Blue Shield patient per day. So you had 5 new patients per week, and that you did a 99202 on each of those patients when it should have been a 99204. I will tell you that in Melissa's case, it was, I coded and billed out for a 99204. So here's why. She had 2 or more body areas of complaint, but she also had the previous surgery. And there was scar tissue there, scar tissue that was not only in the skin and the muscles, but it was affecting the nerve root. There was a comorbidity there that could have affected the length of her recovery. It was a little bit more severe condition. So I did do a 99204 form. So if somebody would have did 99202, that 8166, and let's say you do that on all 5 patients every week, you lose $475.10 per week. Okay, so you're going, well, that's not a terrible amount, but let's just take this even further. Let's say you have 20 new patients, or you have 5 new patients every week, and now you take that by 4 weeks. Now you're losing over $1,900. And then you take that by 12 months, now we're at $22,804. Okay, that's significant. Now, new patient exams are nothing compared to established patient E&M codes. This is where the greatest loss occurs, because a lot of doctors, and if you'll notice, I did not put 99211 in here. It is a code we can use, but I do not recommend it. That was really a code used for RNs to take blood pressure in a medical office. We don't even need to be present to use that. And it's the reimbursement is ridiculous. It also does not establish medical necessity. So we want to use 99212, 99213, and 99214. So the biggest loss of revenue with E&M codes is really our established patients, those patients coming back in, because a lot of doctors that I see are just using 99212. So what if it should have been a 99214? Well, again, 99214 pays $116, 99212 pays $48.84. Now we got a difference of $67.93. Let's say you have 5 new or 5 established patient visits a week, $339, and you just go through and do the math. So at the end of 12 months, there's $16,303 loss in revenue. There's the total loss under those scenarios. Now, obviously, this number is going to be adjusted based on your specific office. So I would go back tomorrow and take a look and just kind of do a little office inventory and see what E&M codes you're using, and then look at some of the cases and see if in fact you are losing revenue. Now, I know that that's huge. That's a big chunk of revenue right there that you don't really have to do anything except get some education and training for you and the staff. All right, now let's go to manipulation codes. Now, before we get into this, there has been a trend over the last few years of our profession really shying away from full spine adjustments. And it's because there's been a lot of scare tactics and people saying, oh, you do a full spine adjustment, you do a 98942, and you're going to be audited. And that's just not the case. The people that I've worked with that were audited because they did full spine adjustments, it was because their chiropractic philosophy did not mesh with the medical necessity of the insurance company, mainly Medicare. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with doing full spine adjustments. If a person has a symptom, pain in the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and you find subluxations in the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, SI, and sacrum, you have the green light to do a full spine adjustment. Where the problem came about is doctors that were very technique driven, and they were doing full spine adjustments on everybody. And they didn't document subjective complaints in those other areas. Or they did, it was cookie cutter chiropractic, as I call it. And they did the same on everybody. Everybody got a full spine adjustment. Everybody was seen for 24 visits. And there was just a major red flag in their profile. And that's why they were dinged and had to probably pay money back from an audit. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with a patient presenting with full spine complaints for you to do a 98942. And I encourage you to do it because, again, you're doing the work. You should be reimbursed for that. So now in Melissa's case, because there was fixations and, I mean, whatever you want to call it, subluxations, segmental dysfunctions, fixations. They were found in the lumbar spine. I found them in the right SI and the sacrum. So I did a 98941. I will tell you that I typically do a 98941 or 3 to 4 region when I have a low back complaint, unless it is an isolated disc problem at a certain level and that the SI and the sacrum are not involved with the symptomatology. In that case, I would do a 98940. Okay. Now, the other thing that I've seen, and this is really the most appropriate way to do it, if you have somebody that comes in with full spine complaints, start them off with a 98942. And as you go through your treatment period, at some point, one of those areas are going to resolve or go into what we call maximum medical improvement. So that's when you would quit adjusting that area and you would transition down to maybe a 98941 or 98940. The reason that looks good is because on your profile, it doesn't look like just a flat line. You're going up and down based on what the patient presents with. The one thing I really want you to leave with tonight regarding all this is you just base it on what the patient presents with. You know, don't try to get cute and go, well, I'm going to stay under the radar and I'm going to do 98941 and I'm going to be okay. You know, the Blues, Medicare, they all have computer edits. They have profiles, they have patterns in your practice, you know, so just you call it like you see it. It's just as simple as that. So here is the fees for the manipulations. So here's a little equation that you can fill out. I didn't fill this out, but you can do it in your own practice. So see what the predominant manipulation code you're using. Take a look at the case files and see, well, maybe could you have done a full spine when you did a 4.0 or 4.1? And then what's the difference? Then how many times a day do you do that? And take that times 4 and take that times 12 months. I think it could be a large amount. And again, you do the work, get paid. Okay, now, this is probably my favorite topic, and it's why active care. So we have what I call an outdated business model in chiropractic, and that is we rely on passive therapy only. The majority of offices rely on manipulations, laser, massage therapy, spinal decompression. Now, I'm not saying that those are not good therapies, but what I'm saying is that you can get better clinical outcomes and you can give yourself a raise with implementing active care, specifically 97110 and 97112. So back in 2016, when Blue Cross took away about 10% on our manipulation revenue, and they said, okay, if you're going to do massage therapy, doctors, you've got to do it. You can't delegate it anymore. I looked at the codes and saw that I think they actually went up a little bit with the active rehab codes. I said, okay, if I've got a choice to make, I got a business decision right now that I either try to go high volume and I have to see a lot of patients and do a lot of adjustments throughout the day to continue to make a professional income, or I implement active care, rehab care into the office. And I can tell you that from a return on investment, if you're still massage based, putting in 97110 or 97112 offers a 2-to-1 return on your investment versus massage. The other aspect is that we need to, based on medical necessity, we need to take and get the patient functionally active. And one of the things I said in the session in the spring was about chronic pain, and we got to get our patients moving. So what doesn't work and what does not help the patient at all, and sure as heck doesn't give you a raise, is giving them stretching exercises to do at home. There's so many problems with that. First of all, you don't know if they're doing them correctly, or they're just taking that paper and tossing it. So I have been a big advocate for active rehab for a number of years. And when I bring it up, I hear these objections. And so I'm going to go over those, and then I'm going to tell you those really aren't valid anymore. There is a way to do this and do it very effectively, and you can still see the volume, and you can have a lot of fun in practice. The first objection is, well, I don't have a big space. I need to have this big rehab space. No, you don't. You can do rehab right in the same treatment room. The second one, well, I need all this expensive equipment. I'm going to have to bring all these weights and stuff in. No, you don't. You can do it very simply. There's low-tech rehab, and you can get into it very inexpensively. And then the third reason, well, I got to have somebody specially trained to do this, or I don't have time to do it because I'm seeing patients. Well, if you got 8 minutes, that's all it takes. It's 1 unit, 8 minutes. You can give yourself a significant raise. You can also be different than other chiropractors in the area, but more importantly, and it's not that I'm against physical therapists. I'm just tired of physical therapists encroaching in on what we do. And what I've seen is that the physical therapists are really good at doing post-surgical work. So if somebody had surgery, I want them to go see a PT for at least 4 weeks. But after that, I want them in my office because I know with the equipment that we use and the protocols that we have, that we can take that patient from a surgery and get them going back into their normal daily lives. And I could tell story after story to validate that. It's competition. And so I really believe that we have got to start taking some of this and have the patient come to our facilities instead of having them go all over the place. The final reason is that I've been in practice for 34 years, and I firmly believe that the Chiropractic Modernization Act, the Medicare Act that's going to expand our benefits, I believe it's going to go. I think we're going to get that. I just don't see any reason why we're not. There's so much movement behind it now. So can you imagine what that would do to your practice? That you now can bill for E&M codes, you can bill for x-rays, you can have physical medicine and rehab codes at your disposal. Your Medicare patients would not have to go out for PT. They stay under all one roof. Well, in order to do that, to make that a viable option for your office, you've got to get the training for it. And the best thing for the chronic pain patients and for the Medicare patients, you got to get them moving. And that's the reason I'm a firm believer in active care. So medical necessity, Medicare says right here, you've got to get them improvement of function. Passive care just does not do that. It's not functional to have a patient just lay there. That's the reason it takes a lot more visits if you don't bring in some other adjunctive therapies. Now, from a chiropractic philosophy standpoint, what we're doing is we're really doing neurological based chiropractic. Everything has to get back up to the brain. Everything in our body is a receptor. We got skin receptors. We have muscle spindles. We have Golgi tendon organs. We have mechanoreceptors. All of that has to fire up to our brain in order for our patients to move without pain and live a good life. Too many of our patients are neurologically starved right now. So from purely a chiropractic standpoint, the spinal manipulation is always number one, but it just isn't enough to get that brain kicked in with more neurological information or afferentation. I can tell you that if I wouldn't have done the therapies I did on Melissa, we wouldn't have had the outcome. Adjustments just were not going to get it done. And that's the beauty of things right now. Our own research is indicating it validates everything that we do from a neurological perspective. So all these new advances in technology and cutting edge care really plays into our wheelhouse. And we can do so much more than anybody else, especially the PTs when it comes to spinal care. So passive care versus active care. It's no longer acceptable to keep a patient on passive care for an entire treatment program especially over a 4-week duration, especially a personal injury or a worker's comp, but really anybody now. I know I saw it when I was digging around in the Blue Cross manual. It states in there somewhere that they really want to get out of passive care and into active care as soon as possible. So the primary goal for your treatment plan must focus on the functional capacity and increasing the patient's activities of daily living. So this is a little unit that I use. I came across ARPWave right at the beginning of COVID. And this little stimulator right here, it's a neural stimulator. There's so many uses for this. This is my Rehab right here. This unit, when you put the pads on, it will produce 245 pulses per second from the pads up to the brain. And I can do therapy and then I can do rehab right with this. So the excuse, well, I don't have enough room. You got enough room. You can do it yourself, or you can have your staff do it. So let me show you how we use it. So I've got Logan right here, and she's got a little low back condition. I've got the unit on her, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do flexion distraction. So it kind of gives a double whammy with neurological input up to the brain. So we're increasing the stimulation, and then I'm going to go ahead and do flexion distraction. So she's getting 245 impulses per second, really hitting the muscle spindles. And I'm not going to go into a lot of neurological things with this, but the cerebellum is huge for us. And the deep muscles, the multifidus, can be reached with this unit. So this is very gentle. It doesn't increase anything with the patient, so she's not getting a sudden jolt. And so I go through and I do the flexion distraction. I'll take her through all the ranges of movement, and then I keep increasing the intensity. So at a certain point, what I can do then, and you'll see that we keep going here, I'm going to stand Logan up, and we do this with our patients every single day. This is where it goes into active rehab. So once she starts doing this, now the clock is on for active rehab. It's as simple as that. We're doing toe touches. We typically do about 4 sets of 5. We have a resistance band, and now we're doing stretches right here. And we keep increasing the intensity. We can do retractors here, scapular retractors. And then we can do seated row. So you don't need, a real expensive arsenal of rehab. You can get by with resistance band, and you can get by with foam rollers, but I do highly recommend the PRS. There's so many things that you can do with that for so many conditions. We have a few of them, and we take and we rent them out to the patients for home use on a weekly basis to augment our treatment. So what code would we use with that? That would be a 97110 therapeutic procedure. And the whole goal is to increase strength, endurance, range of motion, flexibility, and it's 15 minutes each. It's actually, when you use the CMS guides, it's going to be 8 minutes. 97112, Neuromuscular Re-Education. So this is a movement, balance, coordination, kinesthetic sense, posture, and proprioception for sitting or standing activities. You do get paid a little bit more for this one here, but you have to make sure that the patient has some kind of balance or coordination issues. And that can be done very easily with some simple cerebellar testing. So you got to get your ducks in a row from a documentation point of view with this in your exam. So 1 unit of time is 8 to 22 minutes. 2 units is 23 to 37. I can tell you that we basically Here we live usually in the 2-minute range. Sometimes if I've got an athlete that's coming in for rehab, we may hit the 4-unit, but we're typically in that 2-unit, and most of the time 1 unit. And that still does a very good job from a clinical standpoint. So you'll take and look at the codes right here. So look at right here. Therapeutic exercise pays $29.64 per unit. Okay, so you're going to make almost, if you were to do 4 units, you could make almost $120 just on this. Neuromuscular Re-Education, $34.41. The reason I say there's a 2-to-1 ratio on return versus massage is $15 per unit. So if you have somebody in a massage room for say 30 minutes and you had somebody else doing therapeutic exercises and they're Blue Cross patients, well, first of all, doctors, you got to do the massage. Second, if you're doing the therapeutic exercises, you get a 2-to-1 return. You can delegate therapeutic exercises and neuromuscular re-education to a CA, and the training can be very, very easy with that. So this is why I'm saying that we need to move into more active care model for our patient, because the clinical outcomes is absolutely unbelievable, and you give yourself a raise. So I'm going to go back now to Melissa's initial visit. So we did a 99204, which was 176.68. I did a 3-to-4 area. I did do electrical muscle stem because I put the PRS on her. I did do a little traction on her with the Cox table. And then I did the therapeutic exercise. I did 1 unit. So her initial visit was 273.78. Now, if you have x-ray and you take x-ray, that will increase, by whatever your x-ray fees are. Now let's take this and say you did a 99202, and that would be 8166, and you just did a 98940, 2760, or let's say you did do a 99203 and a 98940. Here's the difference. So we're going from this amount here with correct coding and using additional revenue and therapeutics versus this right here. And by the way, for anybody that's wondering, well, yeah, I bet you his opt-in profile is through the roof. No, it hasn't been. I do have a little bit more in the standard deviation for the money, the revenue, obviously with therapies, but I have been in their good graces since I began this in 2016. No problems at all. So there is a revenue loss right now with these old business practices. The new business model for that, I made $273.78 on the first visit. And if you're doing incorrect coding and not doing any additional therapies, you're losing money. But again, I want to make this clear. This is not for everybody. This is how I practice. We do get paid on everything. You've got to be willing to want to make a change. I had a practice in Saginaw that I began working with, and they were top heavy in massage therapists. And we got the therapy, we got the massage really whittled down quite a bit, and we inputted some new rehab, and the patients absolutely love it. The staff is on board. Everybody is in the business is just growing, and everybody's really happy. They were really concerned because they were wondering if the patients who had been coming in for years getting massage, if they would suddenly go, no, I don't want to do this. They started feeling so good, a lot better. They're getting better outcomes that they really, bought into it, and things are going well there. So Melissa's subsequent visits were pretty much the same. And so I was making $97.61 per visit. And this is what you'd make manipulation only, $39.52. That's the reason I say you got to treat a lot of patients every day in order to make a professional living. And that's okay. If that's your business model and that's what you want to do, that's okay. I just want to introduce you to maybe another way to do it. So let's take 5 Blue Cross Blue Shield patients per day and say that you can do 9761. So you're doing that 3 to 4 area, you're doing the muscle stem, doing the rehab, doing the traction. That equals $488 a day, $2,400 a week, $9,700 per month. But this is the raise right here. Now, obviously this will fluctuate based on your practice, but that's significant. And that's only on 5 Blue Cross Blue Shield patients per day. The good news is you don't need a dedicated rehab room. You don't need to invest in expensive equipment, and you do not need to become a rehab specialist. I can teach you. I can teach you how to implement it. I can teach you what to buy, how to code and document, and how to train you and your staff. So we got 2 programs I can offer you. One is what I call the Coding Genius course. It's $700 per year, unlimited support. You send me an email, you got a coding question, and I'll reply right away. Online education curriculum on E&M coding, Medicare, ICD-10, procedure coding, everything you need to know. It's right there. You just go on with the password and you're set. We are also going to be doing some workshops, and you get a no charge attendance for the workshop. And then I'll send you a coding and CPT manuals that I put together. Now, if you're ready, you go, I want to get into rehab. I'm ready to go. And we call it the Active Rehab Genius course. So that's $3,500. You get the ARP Neuro PRS unit. Now you can buy this unit right from ARP Neuro for $3,500, but you don't get the training. You don't get any of this. And so I will make sure, I believe in this rehab program, I will make sure that you get the comprehensive training and how to implement it into your office, treatment protocols that we do here. Again, online education, no charge workshops, and you can come to our office. We're in Gaylord, and you can come up here and visit, bring your staff, and come up as many times as you need to and see how we do things here. If it's during the summer, I'll probably take you out golfing if you want to do that too. And then we do coding and CPT ICD-10. Now, I didn't have a chance, and time is limited. ICD-10, your diagnosis coding is absolutely huge. So we hit that extremely hard as well, because most of the time, if you're not getting paid for a specific code, it probably has to do with the diagnosis. All right, it is hot diggity dog, 8:27. Contact information. If you're interested in any of the programs, send me an email. Other than that, pardon me? Other than that, let's,
Dr. Arkfeld,
which procedures? I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions if that's okay.
Yep. Did you want me to read them to you, or do you have them?
Yeah, Dr. Arkfeld, before you start, this is Chris. Can I please, when you get to them, if you have any reason to wait, can I help answer the delegation questions?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so can you talk about the role of fee control in trust and PPO organizations with your protocol for coding?
Can you repeat that one again?
Can you hear me pretty good? Can you talk about the role of fee control in trust and PPO organizations with your protocol for coding?
Okay. If I get this straight, so what I'm talking about is Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO, and we use the CMS coding guidelines, which is 8 minutes. Sometimes the Blues may use an actual 15-minute per their unit, in which case the time starts clicking, going when you walk in and do a little bit of the history, and then when you start doing the exercise. You can have your CAs, you can delegate that to your CAs, but you do need to train them. I know one of the questions is do you need to send the letter out to the primary care physician, letting them know what you do? Yes, you do. We send it out, we put our care plan together, and I use a program called Chiro Up. It's a really nice patient education program, but it also will generate a letter to the primary care physician. We develop a database of the PCPs, and then that gets faxed out. Now, do they ever sign it and return it? No. I was told by our Blue Cross Blue Shield rep that as long as we had evidence, documentation evidence, that we sent that out to the MD, that if we were to be audited, we'd be okay. And so that's how we do it. We make sure we have, we keep in good contact with the PCP, because I want them to know what we're doing and that they maybe don't need to send off to PT.
So important thing. Can
Yeah,
I
go
add a
ahead.
really important thing? You're absolutely, what you're saying is right on, spot on. And also, please remember that you can do the care, provide the services prior to even sending that letter. So this is not a pre-authorization. It's not a referral. It's simply an opportunity to communicate to their primary care doctor what you're doing. And so you can provide the care before you even send that to them.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because, and I've had a lot of offices that say, well, I don't want to go through all that paperwork, and it drives me nuts because they just have to fax it over or send it in the mail. It's not, we're not asking the primary care for permission. We're just, it's good communication. We should be communicating with them anyway, so they know the wonderful work that we do.
Yep.
Okay, next question. What is the proper code to use for PNF stretching?
That would be PNF. I would say that would probably be 97110, because you're doing stretching. With any of these codes, what you really have to remember, what is the ultimate goal that you're hoping to achieve, the clinical goal? And so if it's increased range of motion, if it's increased flexibility or strength, it's 97110. If your ultimate goal is to help with balance problems or coordination, then it's going to be 97112, Neuromuscular Re-Education.
Okay, this was during the presentation, so I'm not exactly sure, but I'm assuming it's the physical measure codes. But don't these need to be performed by a DC? And is it worth $12 for 8 minutes?
Well, I don't know what $12 fee you're talking about, because the 97110 is $29.84 per 8 minutes, and neuromuscular re-education is like 30, I think it was 34 per 8 minutes. And they can be performed obviously by the chiropractor, but you can also delegate it. And yeah, it is worth it to me to do the active rehab.
And several people asked about notifying the PCP. I think we just answered that question with sending over the care plan. So I think that question was just answered. What procedures need to be done by a DC versus a CT?
Still need a PT treatment plan, DC treatment. Yeah, it's the act. Okay, so the physical medicine rehab codes we're talking about, you would still put that in your care plan as a chiropractor. And so, you know, say 3 times a week for 4 weeks, we plan on using 97110. Our goal is to increase strength, range of motion, and endurance. And we plan on doing it by the use of foam rollers, resistance band, ARP Neuro PRS, whatever the case is.
Okay, and then Dr. Diaz is saying it cannot be delegated according to Blue Cross. So I don't know who wants to take that one.
I'll take that one. So currently, our legal position, substantiated by the Board of Chiropractic and our attorneys, tell us that your right to delegation in the Public Health Code remains intact. I'm not saying that there aren't some efforts right now that we're dealing with to kind of fight that right. But at this point, yes, if you believe the person is educated and trained to perform the service, you've undertaken the exam, the diagnosis, and the treatment plan, and you're going to delegate services that you are supervising. Yes. Now, payment policies like Blue Cross's massage policy says with massage, you have to do it yourself, but they apply that to everyone. I get it. It affects chiropractors the most, but the law says if it applies to everyone, they can do it. But that's just massage. So be really careful. This is a huge arena right now. The MAC is very, very closely monitoring, and we will keep you advised every step. But right now, yes, you legally can delegate to a person you believe is educated and trained. And that's how that's defined, licensed or unlicensed, except if you're following a certain company's payment policies, that would be where you would have your changes there.
Okay, Dr. Arkfeld, how long do you do the traction for?
Well, traction is not a time-based code. I get this question so often. We do traction at least 10 to anywhere between 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. It's not a time-based code, but I wouldn't do anything less than 10 minutes.
Okay, we can still take questions in the chat, but I wanted to let everybody know that the link for the CE quiz for tonight for MAC members is now in the chat function. You'll just click on that link and it asks you 3 questions, and that's how you're going to get your CEs for tonight. I've been getting a lot of questions about whether this was recorded. It was recorded. I've talked to Dr. Arkfeld, and we are going to make this available for some people that wanted to see this that were unable to be here tonight. Those will not be available for CE. So if you're taking it, if you're going to be watching this later, it's not available for CE. It was only available for tonight for that. The recording will be available on the district page on our website. And yes, I can share the link again. There you go. There's the CE quiz link again. Do we have any, how do you manage code doing different modalities to the same region as where you adjusted?
Okay, that only comes into play when you're using the 97140 manual therapy code. You cannot use that code in the same area of manipulation. So your physical medicine and rehab codes don't follow the same coding guidelines for that.
How do you not become an outlier with Blue Cross if you are making $400 per treatment when annual payment per patient should be around $400?
You know, I see some of these other profiles, and I sometimes ask self the same question. I think it may be that the treatment duration per diagnosis may be less, like 8 to 10 visits. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm only seeing that patient 8 to 10 visits per year. That means that for a particular condition, it may only take me 8, 10 visits to get them to maximum medical improvement. And then I release them from care. And then if they come back with a new condition, then we're getting into some other coding issues. But I'm, doing some different things, doing a new exam. Maybe I do a new diagnosis, maybe I don't. But so far, I've not had any issues, and I've been doing it this way. We're going on the 6th year of implementing the active care.
So Lisa, I'm sorry, Doctor, were you done with that question? Were you done, Dr. Arkfeld?
I was, yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to answer one really quick here. Someone said, how do you not become an outlier with Blue Cross if you are making $400 per treatment when an annual payment or payment should be around $400? I'm really excited to announce this, and you've gotten some notice of this so far, but not enough has come out to you yet because it's still in the works between Blue Cross and this new entity called Secure Care. They have now finalized their agreement. Our whole profiling utilization management process, the one that comes from Blue Cross, is changing over. Optum is going away. Those profiles based on nothing but numbers are going away. We're looking at a system that looks at quality and outcome. That doesn't mean you're not going to be looked at, of course, and that there won't be times when someone's going to call you up and say, what the heck are you doing here or there? But it's not about Blue Cross just lopping people off based on numbers. So it's really, really, really big change and exciting for the profession. So don't even think about $400 for anything anymore. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to change for the better. And so I can tell you to keep your eyes open on our emails and please read them. And anyone who wants to talk more about this, give me a call.
There are a few of you that aren't able to use the link for the quiz. A lot of that has to do with what internet, like Google or Firefox, it depends on what you're using. So if you're not able to get the link to work, please send an email to lisa@chiromi.com and I will send you the link that way. Sometimes it works better that way. Not paying for 97124 when it is performed on the same region CPT code. Also, they're not paying for 97012 same area. I think that was more a statement than a question.
Well, I would say you have to look at the modifiers and probably the diagnosis as well, if they're not paying.
Well, we're getting late. I wanted to thank Dr. Arkfeld for doing this presentation. Obviously, he's very knowledgeable and he's been a great resource for us at the MAC. I wanted to thank all the staff at the MAC office, also your representatives at District 3 and District 4. You know, just as a side note, Dr. Arkfeld did this on his own dime, and we really appreciate it. So
Thanks, Bob.
you've been a service to this organization for a long time, and we can't thank you enough.
Well, I can tell you in traveling around the country, state associations, nobody does it better than the MAC.
Thank you. Yay. That's a good way to end the night.
Thank you, Dr. Arkfeld.
You bet.
That's awesome.
And much thanks to Dr. Whedon for being a great emissary for us.
Not only Dr. Whedon, our MAC staff, this organization is there for you. This is a perfect example of what this association does for every member. Let's make sure we support it and we stand behind it 100%.
There was somebody that just sent a message about a DAC bar to present. Yes, absolutely. We're always looking for DAC bars. My email is lisa@chiromi.com. Please send me an email. There's very few of you available to us. So yes.
And also to reiterate what Dr. Whedon mentioned early, please, everybody on the call, as well as your friends, your patients, on the MAC website, have them fill out the letter to our representatives, to our senators for the Medicare expansion bill. That will make what Dr. Arkfeld talked about for Blue Cross more readily available to all those patients with Medicare.
Yeah.
One thing I've heard a lot that I wanted to say, one thing we hear a lot about how many emails we send out about helping with the Medicare. It's because it is so crucial. We're not doing it to annoy people. We're not putting it on our Facebook to annoy people. This is so crucial. Everyone needs to be contacting their senators and their representatives. We need to get this Medicare bill to go through. So please go to our website. When we send the emails, please click on the links, have your patients do it. We need to get the word to Washington that we need this to happen.
And one last comment on that. You all can be really proud. Michigan, with our great team and all of you, we're leading the way grassroots on this all across the country, and we're getting this done. This is going to be an effort that hasn't happened anyway near this since the 1970s. So this is really big. Don't get frustrated. Keep on pushing. We've got a massive grassroots movement going.
Don, did you want to talk about anything? Don?
I just want to echo the sentiments and the ideas of what Chris and Lisa just said. This is a critical tipping point for the profession. This is an area of reimbursement that we have not tapped on as far as, you know, Medicare being a major turning point for Medicare coverage. So engage your patients, most certainly your staff, your family, as well as yourselves in the legislative effort.
All right, everybody, I think that's it. Thank you so much to everyone who participated tonight. And we will see you at a MAC event coming up soon. Have a wonderful night, everyone.